Hey everyone, Cinephile Mike is here, and we have done it. Happy Friday. It is day 74. We have officially reached the end of season one of Oscar Rewind, my bi-weekly series of videos where I revisit the films that reflect the earlier work of this past year's Oscar nominees and winners. As always, I'll be discussing the awards history for the film, the box office information, the critical response, and as always, these reviews will be spoiler-free. You can find all older episodes here on the YouTube channel or find a lot of great information on my website, cinephilemike.com. Before I jump in, do me a favor, just click that subscribe button, click that like button. Let me know that you like the content that's coming here because there will be so much more. And, one more thing before I dive in. Thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart for those new followers that have come along during the Rewind season. It's been so great to get to know some of you. There have been comments, there have been movie reviews, and it's been great. I've so enjoyed digging into these 74 films and finding, unearthed gems, and I can't wait to dive in to the 97 reviews that are going to be coming to you in 97 days as we count down a handful of films of the hundreds that will be vying for awards in the 2025 awards season. So exciting. You don't want to miss it, so make sure you stay tuned here. All right, back to Rewind. I am ending on a strong note, and I am discussing the 2015 based on historical events film Spotlight. Written by Josh Singer and the film's director Tom McCarthy, Spotlight was released domestically in November of 2015. It had its international releases throughout the early winter and spring of 2016. And with a reported budget of $20 million, the film by the end did prove successful. Although it started small with a domestic weekend opening of only $295,009, there was enough strong word of mouth that by the end of its domestic run, the film more than doubled its budget, bringing in $45,055,776 and added an additional $53,634,478 internationally, giving the film a worldwide take, just missing that $100 million mark. As of this recording and posting, the film sits with a $98,690,254 take. Critically, this film was also very well received. As per our critical source, Rotten Tomatoes, Spotlight sits with a 97% critical rating, coming from 379 reviews, and a popcorn meter score of 93%, culled from over 50,000 ratings. Not too shabby of a film to end Rewind on this season. So why are we here? Well, not for one reason, but two. One is for one of the film's co-writers, Josh Singer, who co-wrote Maestro with Bradley Cooper, who was and enjoyed his second nomination this year at the Oscars for Best Original Screenplay. His first Oscar nomination was for this film, which was an award he won in 2016. He shared with McCarthy Best Original Screenplay for Spotlight. Secondly, Mark Ruffalo, who I have talked about earlier this season in The Kids Are All Right, celebrated his fourth Oscar nomination this year for playing the creepy lech in Poor Things. And it was Ruffalo's first nomination since 2016 when he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Spotlight. And this is just the beginning. I could go on and on about the over 120 wins and 144 nominations that Spotlight had during its run. So I'm just going to stick to a few key ones that I normally go to. So Spotlight was named one of the top films of 2015 by the National Board of Review. There were two nominations at the SAG Awards, one for Rachel McAdams for Best Supporting Actress, and its second nod, which it won, was for Outstanding Performance by a Cast in a Motion Picture, the SAG version of Best Picture. It won all five ISA awards that it was nominated for, including Best Screenplay, Best Director, Best Editing, the Robert Altman Award, and Best Feature Film. It had three Golden Globe nominations: Best Screenplay, Best Director, and Best Picture Drama. Eight Critics' Choice nominations with three wins. The nods were for Ruffalo for Supporting Actor, McAdams for Best Supporting Actress, Best Director, Best Editing, Best Score, and two wins for Best Original Screenplay and Best Picture. It won the BAFTA for Best Original Screenplay and again saw Ruffalo nominated for Best Supporting Actor and Best Film. And finally, the big ones, Oscars. The film won two of the six Oscars that it was nominated for. It was nominated for Best Editing, Best Director, Best Supporting Actor for Ruffalo, Best Supporting Actress for McAdams, and its two wins were, as I've mentioned, one for Singer and McCarthy for Best Original Screenplay, and the big one, Best Picture of the Year. So, Spotlight is the gripping tale of the expose done by the Boston Globe Spotlight team when they investigated the scandal surrounding the Catholic Church and the abuse of young altar servers at the hands of priests in the diocese. And sometimes not just altar servers, but any of the young men or women that they some came into contact with. Look, before I get ahead of myself, the Spotlight team is a small, deep investigative journalist team that is headed by Walter Robbie Robinson, played by Michael Keaton, who heads a small crew made up of Sasha Pfeiffer, played by McAdams, Michael Resendiz, played by Ruffalo, and Matt Carroll, played by Brian Darcy James. Now, when the film opens, their supervisor, Ben Bradley Jr., played by John Slattery, is after them to get their investigative piece on the Boston police together, a different kind of expose. But this gets upended when the new managing editor of the Boston Times, Marty Barron, played by Liev Schreiber, shows up. At an editor's meeting, he asked the Spotlight team to put aside the police story and investigate this small story that he read, an article about the Archbishop of Boston, played by Len Carew, covering up the sexual abuse of children at the hands of one of the fathers, one of the priests in the church, Father Gagan, who is not played by anybody. We do not meet the father in this film. Now, Marty believes that this is an important story to investigate, and he is willing to go so far as to sue the Catholic Church to release the respective documents that are related to this. A very interesting move for a man who, and is quite commented on, is a unmarried Jewish man who's coming into a very Catholic city with a very domineering Catholic, readership of the paper, but he feels this story needs to be told. And so off goes Robbie and his team. And they will dig into the facets of this and uncover that this story goes beyond just one priest here in Boston, but there's a much larger systemic problem. And this is what they are seeking out to uncover to see where this impact is. Now, as they go along with this quest, they will engage with many people, including the lawyers who worked on both sides of the sexual abuse claims, those who repped the victims, those that repped the church. They will work with members of SNAP, the survivors network of those abused by priests, led by Phil Saviano, played in the film by Neil Huff, and also find ways to continue to put together this very sensitive story. Nothing else, another challenge having to put up with as this film takes place, and this investigation really did take place at the same time as the 9/11 attacks. So, as they piece all of this together, and once we see where that ink dries, what will be uncovered and what will be the aftermath and the impact? That's kind of where I have to end. It's a little hard to do spoiler-free summaries on based on historical event films because the scandal, especially this one, has rocked the nation so much that many people know how it plays out, but perhaps you don't know all the facets, and that's what we get here. And this film is a truly strong written work that not only focuses on the scandal that we're looking at what was covered up, but we get these really fully fleshed out characters and players who go along with Robbie and his team and learn some of the characters we meet, they're a little more implicit than we thought when we first met them in what was going on and why this has been going on for so long. I mean, every single performance is excellent, not a weak one in the batch. All the performers that I've referenced, and the two that I didn't, and I'm a little remiss, we meet the two lawyers that repped the victims. One is Mitchell Garabedian, played by Stanley Tucci, always enjoyable, and another one played by Billy Crudup, the lawyer Eric McLeish, who's a little more slick talking than Tucci's Garabedian, and maybe the intentions aren't quite the same. And Crudup gives a delightful performance that shows why he was a two-time Emmy winner for the morning show, as there are some similarities in these two characters that he plays. It's no surprise for me that McCarthy and Singer's screenplay received so many accolades because they really kept the story tight and moving as we build to the climax. This film runs over 2 hours, but it really doesn't feel that way. It just moves and moves and moves. And especially if you aren't as familiar with all of the details, it's fascinating to behold how it plays out. And McCarthy itself, I mean, at first I was wondering why he didn't receive more of the director nods. It's been almost 10 years. I dug into it. And while I do believe that Spotlight is a stronger film than The Revenant, I don't want to discount what Inarritu did with The Revenant, and he did beat McCarthy at most of the awards, so I don't want to, take away from that. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about what a great effective score we have by the incomparable Howard Shore as the Spotlight team, is doing their work, whether they're out in the field or they're in their basement offices. Shore ratchets up the tension so much with this score that he makes the mundane task of people just doing their work seems tense and nail biting. I mean, there are so many more wonderful things that I could say about this film, but I will say instead is that you need to see Spotlight if you haven't. It is an excellently made film that doesn't shy away from addressing the subject matter it's covering. It calls out certain hypocrisies that unfortunately are still present in our time today, almost 25 years later after the events that are in this film that are still going on. And albeit uncomfortable to watch at times, this film for me is actually one that is rewatchable because I've seen it many, many times and always pulled different things from it. Excellent performances by a truly stellar ensemble cast. I'm sure it's no surprise when I'm going to stand here and say I give this film a very enthusiastic 5 stars. 5 stars. What a better way to end Rewind season one of Rewind than with not only 5 star film, but when I was digging back into my notes, Spotlight was actually my number one film of 2015 of the over 150, 170 films I probably saw in 2015. Spotlight was my number one. If you would like to watch or rewatch Spotlight, it is streaming exclusively on Stars or available to rent on all digital platforms. All right. So that is officially a wrap on season one of Oscar Rewind. Thank you to everyone who has followed along and joined me. Thank you to all of the new subscribers. We've had a new influx recently. Thank you. Welcome. Don't leave me though just yet because there's a whole new slew of Oscar nominated and award nominated films coming, which means that when I come back with Rewind in mid March, there's going to be so much more to uncover. As always, if you like what you heard here, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, spread the word, drop me a comment. You can follow me, Cinephile Mike, on all social media platforms and on Letterboxd. You can find lots of great reviews on my website, cinephilemike.com, film festivals, local festivals, so much good stuff. Can't wait to share all of it with you and so much more. And as I say, as always, happy watching everyone. And until next time, this is Cinephile Mike saying take a break and watch something new.